I'm Nancy McMillin. I have 3 girls at Linden Hall. My oldest daughter, Sydney, is in the 9th grade, and I've got twins, Kelsey and Abigail, in the 7th grade. Sydney started in 7th grade, so this is her 3rd year, and the twins came in at the 6th grade level, so they're just in their 2nd year here. I had wanted Sydney to come to the middle school in 6th grade, but we had just moved to the area in 5th grade, and she wanted to stay with the friends she had just made, and we went with that decision. 7th grade, as she went into the public school, it was an overwhelming experience for her, and she had enough self-awareness to know that that was not a good environment for her. So she came here, and I saw the difference in Sydney in less than 3 weeks. It was a kid who finally had her interest in learning tapped into and exploded, and she was having intellectual conversations at the breakfast table, and it was a side of her that I knew was there and didn't know how to reach, but Linden Hall reached it instantly. She blossomed into the most beautiful learner I could have hoped for. And the twins saw that in their big sister, and they knew that they are intelligent people who have important voices that need to be heard, and they could see that Linden Hall teaches them how to express themselves and try new things in a safe environment to find passions they don't even know that they have. It's a highly ranked public school system, but she was still a number. She was in a large classroom. She had 4 minutes between classes. There was no social engagement with any friends. Education was a job. It was just a thing to do. It was a way to get through the day, and that's not what learning is supposed to be about, and she wasn't learning. She was being shuffled through. Whereas she came to Linden Hall, and she was in a very small classroom, and the teachers knew her name, and really most importantly, I think for her sense of ego, if you will, as she walked through the corridors where the high school students were, the high schoolers called her by name. So she was a person, and other people knew her, and that was such an empowering thing for her. That was the biggest conflict, is she went from not being known at all in a hallway to being known by a lot of people in a hallway. She really clicked with Dr. Mallon in the archaeology class, and she learned about Hatshepsut. And I know nothing about Hatshepsut, had never heard of her, and that I think was the real trigger. And so when the breakfast table conversation one day, she said, "Guess what I found on YouTube?" And I was thinking puppy videos or makeup application or something. She had been so excited by what she learned in the classroom that she came home and spent her spare time on YouTube learning more about Hatshepsut and finding out about this woman and what she had done and all her accomplishments. And she was so excited, Sydney was so excited, she wanted to tell us about it at the breakfast table, where when she was in the public school, if I got a grunt at the breakfast table, we were doing okay that day. So that to me was really the sign that we had made the right choice for her. The kids really get along so well. You really don't find cliques, which in a small school can be a very dangerous thing. And you find different groups of girls going off and doing different activities together. And so in that way, they really learn to engage with other cultures and with other personalities. And I think in such a small group too, it becomes a very good way to learn how to interact with someone whose maybe viewpoints aren't the same as yours, or whose beliefs aren't the same as yours, whose habits aren't the same as yours. But you learn how to do it, and you learn how to do it well. And so when you take that into the bigger world, that is a very important skill. I think 7th and 8th grade, I think she had about 17 or 18 girls. And everybody was included. And that was the interesting thing. I was used to her having like a best friend or 2 best friends. And in 1 week, she went to an activity on campus, and she told me who she went with. And then she went downtown, and it was a completely different group of girls. And I said, "Oh, well, what happened to the others?" And she said, "Oh, well, no, that was almost like that was then, this is now, and I'll do different things with different people." And that seems to be the way the girls sort of do their activities. They do socialize with everybody, but maybe at different times and for different purposes. And everyone seems cool with that. Having been to all-girls middle schools myself, I knew how important it was in terms of personal development. And so in my girls, I could see that they were empowered. They are called on, right? And they are heard, and their opinions are valued. And they're much freer than, I think, to, in other environments, speak their mind and know that their opinion is worth being heard. And so they just have a much bigger sense of self-confidence. So many of the studies are out in co-ed classrooms where the boys are called on first, or the boys are heard more often, or maybe they're just louder. And as girls develop through their middle school and high school years, there are other things going on that maybe cause the girls to slink back a little bit and wait for somebody else to answer. And in Linden Hall, in an all-girl classroom, you can't sit back and wait for somebody else to answer. You're it. You're up all the time. And you have to engage in your education, and you have to engage in the learning, and you have to engage in the discovery process. When I finally saw a list of all the extracurriculars available to the girls, I could not believe the school the size of Linden Hall had so many activities available to the girls. And almost the downfall is that there's no limit to what the girls can participate in except for the amount of time available to them. So they kind of sat down at a buffet, my girls did, and signed up for a lot of stuff that we had to scale back on. But it was great because it meant that they could, try out for the middle school play, and try out for the soccer team and the archery team. And there's just so much available to them. And what struck me most too, again, back to the sense of curiosity, if there's a club that doesn't exist and the girls want to start one and there's a faculty member that will help them out, they can start a new club. Sydney was in the middle school play, and I never in a million years, and I don't think Sydney would have told you that she would otherwise have tried out for a play, but she very much trusted the director, the theater teacher, and I think some of her friends were doing it. And really the most beautiful thing about Linden Hall is she could try for the play, and she got a part, and she did great, but she knew if she failed, nobody was laughing at her. They're three such different girls, and I think that's another really telling point about Linden Hall. Three girls, really different needs, really different learning styles, really different personalities, and Linden Hall supports and touches each one of them equally. My oldest twin has always been sort of an introvert, and the thought of doing sort of presentations would have her in tears for 3 days before. And the sixth graders always take part in the Chinese New Year celebration and includes singing a song. And I didn't even know that she was involved in that until the day before, because she no longer had the anxiety. Linden Hall had boosted her confidence enough that she knew that she could get up there and sing in front of people that she didn't know, and nothing bad was going to happen to her. And that is such a tremendous growth that it just takes my heart by storm.